Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's start today's video with a tale of resilience and knowing your rights. When a hardworking woman using her federally protected FMLA time found herself under fire from her micromanaging boss, she didn't just back down. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. My wife's epic showdown with a micromanaging boss. My wife has some health issues, and she has completely certified and approved FMLA, the Family Medical Leave Act, or you do not mess with this medical leave for those outside of the U.S. When she was employed, Job was aware of this, and since they had flexible schedules, she would simply flaunt it whenever she felt like it. She would make up the time later in the week after taking a few hours off now. The boss was aware of this, was okay with it, and everything went smoothly. The new boss enters. After a few months, my wife's new supervisor keeps telling her, "You're doing fantastic. Don't take notes, just keep working." My wife has two huge brass ones and isn't scared to tell a Karen to shut up and be quiet since she doesn't accept her new boss, an old-school Karen. To everyone's complete surprise, HR was called a few months later without any prior notice or warning. HR rambles on about the FMLA, accusing her of defrauding the employer and not filing her FMLA claims, among other things. "1 minute," she says. "I know an FMLA expert with 15 years of experience. I'll give him a call. Do you have a moment, honey?" Yes. Did I mention that I have years and years of experience working with FMLA at the corporate level on a national basis? Came in handy at last. No, sweetheart, FMLA is considered time worked. It cannot be deducted from your FMLA limit because you've been flexing to make up your time. According to federal law, if you must take FMLA, you do not have to make up the hours worked. They can't instruct you to make it up, or they're breaking the law. But they can require that you use PTO in addition to it. The phone was dead silent, and I could hear it. At last, the wife speaks up. "I would be delighted to stop making up time if the issue is that I haven't been properly applying for FMLA. Karen boss, I will have to postpone these projects since I will not have as much time as I had anticipated to complete them because I will no longer be able to make up time. We can arrange for overtime if you'd like to approve it." My wife works from home, but it turns out that Karen boss didn't like that she couldn't micromanage her. She assumed HR would help scare her straight. They were completely unprepared for someone to be more knowledgeable than they were about their claims. In response to Karen boss's repeated attempts to exert pressure, my wife would always say something along the lines of, "I am not legally allowed to do that, and I've been instructed by corporate to file all time as protected FMLA." "Go ahead," was the response to threats of punishment. "The only person you have who can perform X task is me. I used to enjoy my job here, which is why I still do. If you feel the need, write me up, but be aware that doing so will begin my 2-week notice period." She's also remained steadfast. She takes FMLA time off whenever she needs to, files everything correctly, and because there's nothing she can do about it, Karen boss can just sit and mope. About a month has passed since then. Leader HR has gone entirely silent. Karen has finally understood that she's about as heavy as a feather, and the wife's life has improved overall because she's under a lot less stress now. As my wife, like Karen boss, keeps conversations brief, straightforward, and direct. When the current crisis is over, may they terminate her for some irrelevant reason? Yes, but she's already received offers from a number of different organizations, and in the worst-case scenario, we can afford to have her take a month or two off from work. Naturally, we also have a huge Cover Your Butt folder that has names, dates, and any other instances in which Karen boss attempted to retaliate, created a hostile work environment, etc. People, be aware of your rights and don't be scared to defend yourself. It's impressive how determined your wife is and how she can handle Karen, her boss, who doesn't know what's going on. It's also kind of satisfying, to be honest. Unfortunately, Karen clearly thought she could use HR to scare your wife, but your knowledge and your wife's down-to-earth approach put Karen in her place. I love how your wife told them, "Write me up if you want to, but it'll cost you." At that point, you should really not mess with me. And our second story. The ice cream debacle, when Charlotte's lies finally melted under pressure. I used to work at my mom's local takeout restaurant. We had the place open for 7 years until we rented it out to other people. Cast: Charlotte, me, my mom, CF, Charlotte's friend, AM, assistant manager. Every once in a while, this woman who we'll call Charlotte would come around and order food. And we were super nice to her as she treated us with respect. Until 1 year later, her inner choosing beggar comes out. She came to the restaurant when I wasn't on shift and asked for 3 vanilla ice creams. No big deal, right? My mom rings her up on the register, total was like $3, and Charlotte says, "Charlotte, oh dear, I'm short. Could I please pay you back tomorrow?" Now, my mom doesn't usually like doing this, but she made an exception because Charlotte has been super nice to us since we opened in 2012. Mom: "Okay, yes, all right, but just remember to pay back tomorrow." My mom scooped her ice cream and made a note as to not forget about the payment tomorrow. To no surprise, she never came back for a whole week. So, of course, my mom was annoyed. A week later, she came back when I was on shift. I had no knowledge that she came here before or of the note. She comes up to the window and orders a full fish and chips meal and 3 ice cream cones. I say no problem, write down the order, and ring her up. I forget what her total was, but she then says, "Oh dear, I forgot my wallet. I'm so sorry. Can I pay it back tomorrow?" I was very reluctant about this, but I did it anyway because I had no knowledge of the note. I just quietly nod and write the note down. I make her food and she leaves. I go to put my note up and see another note for the same woman about the ice cream. My heart drops, and I'm instantly having regrets, and she's already gone, so I'm effed. Charlotte doesn't come back for 3 weeks. At this point, my mother is beyond PO'd. 3 weeks pass, and Charlotte finally returns. Dun, dun, dun. Our assistant manager's on cash register duty and recognizes her face, but decides to play along. My mom was in the back with me making batter. Charlotte comes up to the window and orders one of the most expensive burgers, $30, because it has 3 extra patties and every topping. AM rings her up and tells her the total. Charlotte: "I forgot my wallet. Can I pay you back tomorrow?" AM: "No, I'm sorry. We need to have payment now or no food." Charlotte: "Please, it's for my husband. He just got back from being deployed. And my kids are hungry too. Please?" My mom had finally had enough and stepped out from the back. I've never seen someone's face turn so white. The conversation went something like this. Mom: "Charlotte, we cannot do this again for the 3rd time. You owe us a crap ton of money. We're not going to give you another freebie." Charlotte: "My kids and husband are starving. Please, just make one more exception. I just got fired from my job and I don't have the money. Please help me out. I need to feed my husband and kids. My husband just returned from being deployed to Iraq." As a small 13-year-old, I could smell the bullcrap, and then CF joins in. CF: "Charlotte?" Charlotte turns and looks even more pale. "Oh, hi, CF. CF: "You are so low. You know that?" Charlotte: "What? How do you mean?" CF: "You're lying to these people for free food because you don't feel like spending money. You don't have a husband or kids. I've known you for 10 years and you've never bothered. You have a single cat, and you do have a job, a high-paying one, actually. You're an effing accountant. Stop lying to these people. They have bills to pay and actual families to feed." Charlotte is completely red in the face. She got in her car and drove off. AM, Mom, and I were flabbergasted. That had never happened in our years of being open. About 2 days later, Charlotte returns and slams the money on the counter, drove off, and we've never seen her since. And God, I hope I never do. Charlotte's gall is mind-blowing. 3 times? That's not desperation, that's a pattern. And the nerve of her fabricating an entire family and military husband to guilt trip you? That takes the cake. The real MVP here is Charlotte's friend, delivering a public takedown so satisfying it could have been scripted. The whole situation is equal parts maddening and hilarious, and honestly, the ending couldn't have been better. Charlotte storming out, humiliated, only to return later and throw down the owed money in a final act of salty defeat. And our last story. How Dave's truck became a lawn ornament. In a small town like mine, where everyone knows everyone's business, it's impossible not to know which neighbors are trouble. For me, that neighbor's always been Dave, a self-proclaimed handyman with a knack for stirring up drama. Complaints about noise, encroachments, and other petty disputes seemed to follow him wherever he went. For years, I tried to keep things cordial, but even patience has its limits. A few years back, I noticed something odd. My gas cans, ones I kept out back for mowing my lawn, started running mysteriously low. At first, I thought it was just poor memory on my part, but the more I noticed it, the more it became clear. Someone was siphoning my gas. Given Dave's reputation and his perpetually sputtering old truck, he was at the top of my suspect list. Rather than confront him outright, I decided to lay a trap. I filled an empty 5-gallon jug with water, tinted it with a few drops of food coloring to resemble gasoline, and set it in my usual storage spot. Then I waited. Didn't take long for my plan to bear fruit. The very next morning, Dave knocked on my door looking unusually frustrated. His beat-up truck, which usually limped along at the best of times, was now completely dead. Hey, he started, shifting uncomfortably. Truck won't start. You think you could give me a ride into town? Feigning concern, I asked, are you sure it's not out of gas? Might be worth checking. Oh no, Dave replied quickly. I just topped it off last night. There's at least 5 gallons in the tank. I had to bite my tongue to keep from laughing. All right, I said, let me grab my keys. On the drive into town, Dave was in full rant mode about how unreliable his truck was, cursing the engine and everything else under the hood. I played along, nodding sympathetically. After dropping him off, I headed home to check the trap. Sure enough, the fake gas jug was gone. Over the next few days, I kept a close eye on Dave's driveway. His truck was a sorry sight. Hood popped, tools scattered around, and Dave looking increasingly frustrated as he fiddled with the engine. He even called a friend over to help, but no amount of tinkering could bring the truck back to life. That was 3 years ago. To this day, Dave's truck sits in the same spot, slowly becoming a lawn ornament as rust and weeds claim it. He's never brought up the incident, and I've never offered any explanations. But every time I pass his house and see that old clunker gathering dust, I can't help but smile. Dave may never admit what he did, but his immobile truck serves as a quiet monument to his misdeeds. Justice, as they say, is best served cold. Or in this case, watery and dyed green. Honestly, the brilliance here isn't just in setting the trap, but in the sheer patience and subtlety you showed throughout. You didn't rant, rage, or point fingers. You let karma, or colored water, do the talking. The image of Dave's truck rusting into oblivion is the final touch on this whole saga. Imagine him still scratching his head, blaming his unreliable truck for years while avoiding an actual confession. Small-town life's full of drama, but it's rare to see it resolved so poetically. Well played. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.